degrees in Kings Point. We love it out here. We normally do a rapid-fire Q&A. If you watch the show, you're familiar with that, but we're doing a different version of that now. Tell me your name and where you're from.
My name's Tiberius Roman Procario, and I'm from Houston, Texas.
Okay, Tiberius, do you have a question about Texas or no?
Oh, no.
Okay, so what's your question?
Well, my question is for Skip. Skip, should Josh McCown have started a game yesterday against the Lions?
All right.
What a great
Skip
question.
loves Josh McCown.
Mr.
Go ahead.
Smith, it's not that I love Josh McCown, but I tried to tell you last Tuesday, you will recall, that Josh McCown should have started yesterday, because if he had, the Bears would have won that football game. I love me some Jay Cutler, Vanderbilt's own Jay Cutler, and what a win Vanderbilt University had on Saturday at Florida. But the point is, Jay Cutler was gimpy at best yesterday. He threw the ball well when he had time, when he had to move. He couldn't move. They said he sprained an ankle in the second quarter. I couldn't see any sprained ankle body language, so I don't know anything about that. But in the end, when Josh McCown got the football in the last drive, off he went to the races and played just as beautifully as he did on Monday night at Lambeau Field. He would have won that game from start to finish if he had started.
You can say it that way. It's easy for you to say that Josh McCown somehow would be a winning quarterback. Congratulations on that proclamation. I'm glad you feel that way. I don't. What I will tell you, however, is that Jay Cutler certainly should have been yanked from the game considerably earlier. Based on the way his groin was bothering him, the way he was walking, he looked too gimpy. He was ineffective at some point. There were moments where he looked fine, where he was flinging the football, particularly in the first half. I just think Trestman should have yanked him after he ultimately re-injured himself, and he should not have kept him in there for as long as he did. He waited entirely too long. But the question was whether or not he should have started. I have no problem with your franchise quarterback in a contract year looking to get a new contract, with you looking to make a decision as to whether you want to make this investment in him long-term or not. I have no problem with you putting him out there. This is the same Jay Cutler that I rioted because guess what? He went out of the NFC Championship game years ago with an injury, but somehow, some way, could get on a bicycle and pedal all for the entire second half, for crying out loud. I said if you can do that, you could be out on the field. In this particular situation, they put him out on the field. They just should have yanked him once it was clear that he was no longer going to be effective.
So he took himself out of the NFC Championship game because he said, didn't want to be a detriment to my team.
That's right.
Yesterday, he was a detriment to his team for much of the game. So he should have taken himself out, or the coach should have taken himself out to start the game.
Well, that's a good point, because if you could take yourself out of the NFC Championship game, even though at the time he was playing for Lovie Smith, now Mark Trestman, if you want to take yourself out of the game, you do it in an NFC Championship game, you can certainly do it in a regular season game. I do get your point, and we agree there. However, I would say to you, I have no problem with him starting, because there were times early when he was effective. It's just that the game progressed, he seemed to be ailing.
Gentlemen, another question from the audience. Your name and where you're from?
My name is Caleb Navin. I'm from Hartford, Wisconsin.
All right, so you don't have a question about Wisconsin.
I do have a question about Wisconsin.
You do? Okay, go ahead.
About Green Bay. I was wondering, guys, do you think that Green Bay can pull it together after all these injuries and still take a chance to win the NFC North?
CJ, that's for you.
Absolutely not without Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
The only hope you have is for the bad man that he is, Aaron Rodgers, to get healthy yet again. If Aaron Rodgers is not healthy, Green Bay will be lucky to win 2 more games this season. They don't have a quarterback, y'all. Seneca Wallace was out. He got injured in the first quarter, and this guy, what is Tolzien or whatever his name is?
Scott Tolzien. Say his name correctly.
Scott Tolzien.
Thank you.
Okay? I never knew the man was in the NFL.
Well, he was the backup last year to Kaepernick.
Well, I didn't pay any attention to that because Alex Smith was the quarterback, and then it was Kaepernick, and I never heard of Tolzien until yesterday.
Oh.
The bottom line is this. It's safe to say, I don't care who knows his name. I don't care if you know how to spell it. I don't care if you elocute the correct pronunciation. He ain't Aaron Rodgers. Not even close. Not even in the same stratosphere. Without Aaron Rodgers, the Green Bay Packers are pretty close to nothing. Did you get that?
It is gotten.
Your Green Bay Packers would not be pretty close to nothing if they had Vince Young as their starting quarterback right now.
I agree with that.
Okay, so where did he go? What happened to Vince Young?
Well,
he got his shot in camp. He played beautifully, and then Ted Thompson said, well, it was my fault. He didn't have enough time to prepare for our offense.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
We got another midshipman question over here.
Yes.
Where are you from?
Kingwood, Texas.
And your name?
Danny McCarthy.
Who's your question for?
Stephen A, actually.
All right, let him have it.
Do the Knicks need to panic just yet?
You know, it's only 6 games into the season of an 82 game season. I'm not going to use the word panic, but I'm not going to summarily dismiss your question because it's valid. The fact of the matter is, right now, the New York Knicks stink. It's just that simple. They have a good coach. Mike Woodson knows what he's doing. The problem is you don't have the personnel. Carmelo Anthony, he's got to be the second coming of Bernard King to get him out of this. Andrea Bargnani can't post me up, okay? And he certainly can't defend anybody, but he's your starting center. I mean, you look at J.R. Smith, he got to take some time to get his groove back. But losing Tyson Chandler is a problem. Iman Shumpert with the J.R. Smith, Mike Woodson's got to figure that out. But in the end, Carmelo is being paid like a superstar. He's got to play like a superstar because the New York Knicks simply don't have the personnel from top to bottom to be anything more than a mediocre team, Skip.
Yesterday was an aberration game for the Knicks because they got San Antonio'd. When the Spurs are hitting on all their many cylinders, you will get blown off your home floor, and that's what happened to them. But without Tyson Chandler, they cannot rebound with anybody. And once again yesterday, they got crushed on the boards 51-33, just as they did by the Charlotte Bobcats.
Right.
Remember when they lost that game
That's
at home? All right, so until he comes back, not that he's Aaron Rodgers-esque, but that's a huge loss for that team.
but like I said, I think Michael Jordan's got the Charlotte Bobcats aimed in the right direction, to be quite honest with you. But the fact of the matter is, if you're getting obliterated on the boards 51-33 against the Charlotte Bobcats and against the San Antonio Spurs, you didn't get San Antonio'd, you got exposed. Because the Charlotte Bobcats are not the San Antonio Spurs, but they did the same thing that the San Antonio Spurs did.
Not like that.
I'm talking about rebounding-wise. So in the end, what it comes down to is you're a New York Knicks team, personnel-wise, that simply isn't good enough. We all have to manage our expectations and understand who we are. That's the key. That's one of the key ingredients to success. People figuring out what are your limitations and what are not. And we know what the Knicks' limitations are because they show it to us quite often, quite too frequently than we would prefer.
Another question from the audience. What's your name and where you're from?
Nathan Rogers, South Bend, Washington.
South Bend, Washington. Your question is for Skip.
I know what this
It
is.
is.
All right,
for
let him
Skip.
have it.
Hey, Skip, do you think the Seattle Seahawks can go 15-1 regular season?
Yes, I do. Stephen A., I thought that yesterday Atlanta would snap out of its funk and put it on the Seahawks in Atlanta, and I was dead wrong about that because the Seahawks snapped out of their couple of games funk and just laid it all over the Atlanta Falcons in their building in a repeat of that game in the playoffs last year. So now I look at what happened to the 49ers yesterday. Not only did they get beaten at home, they got beat up at home. So, I think the Seahawks could go into San Francisco and win that game and finish 15-1.
No, I see more of a 14-2 record, possibly 13-3. They've got Minnesota, New Orleans, then they're on the road at San Francisco and New York before closing out the season against Arizona and St. Louis. I think, first of all, I'm going to give them a given as a loss late in the season. If they're in position to lock up the number 1 seed, I think they'll take a game off.
Maybe.
And then other than that, I think they lose one of these games, and I'm going to assume that it's going to be at San Francisco, who still have an outside shot to compete for the division crown, and they'll be on their home turf. Having lost to the Indianapolis Colts earlier this year, having lost to Carolina yesterday, I think San Francisco will be alert for that game. So I see about 2 more losses on Seattle's docket, and I see them finishing the season 13-3.
All right, thank you for that. Another question. Your name and where you're from?
I'm Patrick Schollard from Atlanta, Georgia.
All right, who's your question for?
It's for Skip.
All right, Skip.
How concerned are you with the Peyton Manning injury last night?
Good question.
It's another great question,
Yeah.
Stephen A. We don't know the result of the next MRI. He had one a week ago during their bye week, and he said he just needed one to get a baseline to see how bad his ankles were after yesterday. Went down twice, grabbed low around the ankles. He played Peyton Manning beautifully and surgically yesterday and just picked to pieces the San Diego Chargers. So, to me, they're not protecting Peyton the way they did early this year. The last 3 games, he has taken a pounding, and there's only so much pounding a 37-year-old body can take. They've got Kansas City, then they go to New England, then they go to Kansas City. So this is the toughest stretch of their year. And yet, I think he's going to be okay because he got back up and finished the game in magnificent fashion yesterday. So I'm going to bet on Peyton.
Peyton Manning's about to get beat up. Let's just
He
call it what
already
it
is
is.
beat up.
But I'm just saying, he's about to get beat up even worse, like beat down.
Yeah.
And here's why. 2 of the next 3 games are against one of the top-ranked defenses in this game, and another is against a coach in Bill Belichick who's incredibly familiar with Peyton Manning and what he likes to do. You combine that with the fact that he had the 4 surgeries because of the neck and spinal injury and what have you, and even though he came back from that last season, you've got some questions about the velocity on his throws, even though just the pitch of perfect timing and the passes.
Don't
is
start
something
with
about.
that.
Listen, don't be.
He was just
Don't be
sensational yesterday.
disrespectful. I'm talking.
Well, come on.
The point that
That
I'm
was
trying to make to you,
sensational.
I just said that he was sensational, but there are times when the ball is fluttering a little bit, and all I'm saying to you is you take into account you're at New England, outdoors, Foxborough, inclement weather. You're at Kansas City, outdoors, in that inclement weather. It's not like he's in Pasadena, California. It's not like he's in South Beach. You're in Foxborough and Kansas City. The weather's going to be cold, colder than it is out here today, by the way, okay? And you got a situation where because he's going to be exposed to that, Skip, you combine that with all the other things that I mentioned. So even when he was 100% healthy and in his prime, some of the things that were considered an Achilles heel of his was being outdoors in inclement weather. And then you combine that with the quality of the teams that he's going against. It's not like he's going to a cold Jacksonville, even though they played Denver relatively tough earlier this year. I'm just saying, you can't dismiss that. And not only that, you brought up the 3 games. You got Kansas City, New England, Kansas City again. You got Tennessee and San Diego. Okay, so those are the next 5 weeks. And if nothing else, they're going to put a hat on them. So expect it to be a bit rough for Peyton
So
Manning.
you got them losing at home to Kansas City?
I have them winning at home and losing at Kansas City.
Well, then he's not that beat up if he can beat Kansas City at home, right?
Why? He's Peyton Manning. You can find a way to be beat up and win. That doesn't mean you're not going to get beat up. I'm sorry, you've never seen anybody hurt and still win. That's never happened in your life.
Guy I have.
That's never happened.
Yeah,
All
this
right,
guy.
I've seen Tom Brady. I've seen Peyton Manning. I've seen Drew Brees. I've seen a lot of guys hurt and still go out there and perform. What are you trying to say?
I didn't know what
that you have
case
to be
you were trying to make.
100% in order to perform.
Flutter balls and he's beat up, and yet he's going to beat Kansas City at home.
I think it's possible.
Time out. Another question from the audience, okay? Tell us where you're from and your name, please.
My name's Tyler Washington from Chatham, New York.
What's up?
And I just had a shout out to Mikey Weinstein. He's a 7-year-old boy we adopted from the football team here.
Oh.
He's a friend and teammate.
Okay.
His question was, can the Giants win the division?
The Giants?
Wow.
I'm here to tell you, although I would say that the Dallas Cowboys deserve the edge by default because the division is pathetic, I must acknowledge I've been very pleased with what I've seen from the Dallas Cowboys over the last 3 weeks. It hasn't bothered me one bit. And when I think about it from that perspective, I mean, if the dominoes fall correctly and the Cowboys stick up the joint like we all know they're capable of doing, and the Washington Redskins and the Philadelphia Eagles, who play twice with each other, find a way to beat up on each other, and dare I say that the New York Giants, now that they've got Andre Brown back coming out of the backfield, rushed for 115 yards yesterday on 30 carries. They actually had a running game a little bit yesterday, a workhorse. You still got Victor Cruz with the salsa. You got Akeem Nicks entering a contract year, looking to make some noise. I dare say that I can't rule it out. There is hope. There is hope. I will say that.
Wait. You're back on the band? All this?
I'm saying there's hope.
Wait a minute.
I'm saying there's hope.
I got a question. Can you get waffles here? Do you
They do
eat
sell waffles here.
They serve
They do.
waffles?
You know what?
Yes. We need to get this man some waffles.
I will tell you this.
He is waffling all over the place.
I will tell you this. I will tell you this. Skip, I must admit to you, I don't know what y'all talking about. I was looking for waffles earlier this morning, couldn't find any. I'd ate some. I was hungry. But let me tell you something right now. Listen, I told you the NFC East is pathetic. But if you want to call it waffling, so be it. You want to call it moonwalking. I was a fan of the late Michael Jackson, God rest his soul. Let me tell you something right now. I look at it, and the NFC East, the way it looks, you can't rule anything out. I do recall saying that at the top of the show.
Oh, that's taking a stand. Next question.
No, that is it. Let's give it up for all the midshipmen. Midshipman Washman, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for your questions. We appreciate it. And speaking of the Cowboys and the Giants, when we come back, we will talk NFC East. Fred Smoots will join the desk